Good morning. This is Jason Moss with the Georgia Manufacturing Alliance and Manufacturing News Network. And today we're going to be bringing in our friends from Costangi, Brooks, and Profit. They're an attorney firm all around the Southeast. And I believe they're calling in from today down in their headquarters in Macon. And really excited about having these guys on board with us. I've attended several of events that they've hosted, and the content that they bring to the table is just amazing. Every manufacturer and every business owner in the state needs to hear this information. We're going to be able to archive this call. And for the folks that aren't able to be on the call live today, I know we got some conflicting schedules. We'll be able to save that, and folks will be able to come back in and watch it a little bit later. So with that said, again, Costangi, Brooks, and Profit, again, they've been a great partner and friend and sponsor of GMA for many, many years. And we rely on them heavily on anything that as it relates primarily to labor law. I mean, they cover a lot of other stuff. But today we're going to have them kind of chat with us a little bit about what's going on as it relates to coronavirus in the labor side of the house. So with that, what I'd like to do is introduce our three our guests that are going to be with us. Jonathan Martin, wave Jonathan. There's Jonathan. Jeff Thompson, and that's Jeff. And Mel's over in the corner, I bet. So we'll pencil him in later. So, good deal. And I know they got some. We got a PowerPoint slide that we're going to be sharing with these guys, but I want to kind of open it up to you guys. And we do have their company profile, their personal profile on the landing page. So I'd encourage you to go back in and look at that. And, instead of spending a bunch of time on full introductions, these guys are, like I said, going to share a little bit of insights for us on what we need to be doing in business as it relates to labor. So I think, Jeff, you're going to kick it off. Is that right?
I'll be glad to.
All right. Perfect.
Well, I can tell you now, Jonathan's good looking enough to pull this off on television. Mel and I are not, so I don't know if Zoom was a good idea or not. Well, I'm Jeff Thompson. It's a pleasure to meet you today. We wanted to talk with you about the issue of protected concerted activity as it relates to what's going on with COVID-19. Some of you may not have even heard of that term before, but that's where you have your employees, two or more employees, or one speaking on behalf of others, come forward and begin to gripe and complain about a work-related matter.
Okay.
And when that occurs, that can be considered protected concerted activity. And if you're engaging in protected concerted activity, it's illegal for a company to discipline or discharge an individual for engaging in it, assuming that they're engaging in legally protected activity. So what we've been running into with this COVID-19 is you'll have two or more employees that will come together and start refusing to work or refusing to come to work because they're of concern that you're not providing a safe workplace.
Okay.
And most of the time, in most instances we're following everything we're supposed to with regard to the CDC guidelines, but still we've got some concerns. So we wanted to mention that to you today, talk with you a little bit about protected concerted activity, and I'm going to let Jonathan fill in a few of the blanks related to that, but that's what the issue is today.
Okay, perfect. And let me know when you want to open up the slides, and I'll go ahead and turn those on. You just let me know.
Yeah, let's go ahead and turn on the slides.
Okay. Stand by just a second. Make sure we get this going, and we'll do full screen.
All right, so let's start with the next slide, Jason. Or do I have the ability to move the slides?
I think I'll drive from here. You just let me know what the, there you go.
All right, perfect.
Okay.
All right, so obviously there have been a lot of issues when it comes to COVID-19. We've spent the better part of the last 4 weeks or so dealing with the Families First Corona, Virus Relief Act, as well as the CARES Act and lots of other issues. As Jeff mentioned, there's one issue. And Jason, next slide, please.
Okay.
The only slide up on the screen right now is the cover slide.
Okay. It should be displaying here. I'm showing. Hold on just a second.
Who is enable editing?
Stand by just a second, guys. Hold on just a second. Okay. Okay. How about that? Does that work?
That'll work.
Okay.
All right. So, as Jeff mentioned, there's an area of the law that while everybody's been focused on the FFCRA and everybody's been focused on the CARES Act, everybody's been focused on WARN and lots of issues that deal with plant closures. One area that a lot of people have forgotten or never actually knew about was the National Labor Relations Act. A lot of folks think we're non-union, so we don't worry about the NLRA. Well, the problem is this. The National Labor Relations Act applies to all private employers in the United States of America. And whether or not your employees are unionized, they still have rights under Section 7. Okay. Section 7 of the National Labor Relations Act says that employees have the right to join a labor organization or engage in other concerted activities for purposes of collective bargaining or other mutual aid and protection. What does that mean? What it means is even in a non-union setting, if two employees are unhappy with their working conditions, and it has to be something within the employer's control, but if they're unhappy with their working conditions, then they have the right to walk out. And that is a lawful strike, and they cannot be terminated for that lawful strike. Next slide.
Okay.
Even
with or without a union, right?
That simply is if employees have a shared workplace complaint, it's protected.
Okay.
All right. And so, as we mentioned, if two employees are unhappy with a working condition, then they have the ability to walk out, and that is a protected strike. Another way that somebody can exercise their Section 7 rights is one employee who is speaking on behalf of a group of employees. Okay. As Mel mentioned, it's got to be a shared workplace concern, and it has to be something that is within the control of the employer. Where we've seen this is employees who feel like the employer is not doing everything within their power to protect the employees from COVID-19. Next slide, please.
Okay.
All right, so what are some concerted protected activities? Well, refusing to work over unsafe working conditions is considered a protected concerted activity. Non-union employees and unionized employees not covered by a strike clause have the ability to engage in this protected activity and walk off the job. Unionized employees who have a no strike clause must demonstrate through ascertainable objective evidence that an abnormally dangerous working condition exists at the time of the stoppage.
If there's an abnormally dangerous working condition, not only the employees cannot be permanently replaced. Employees engage in concerted activity, they can typically be permanently replaced, but if it's an abnormally dangerous working condition, the employees cannot be permanently replaced because of the protection of Section 502 of the National Labor Relations Act.
Yeah, and for those again who may not be familiar with it, let's talk a little bit about that. So an employee who's engaged in a lawful strike, two employees are unhappy about their working conditions. They're unhappy about how the employer is dealing with safety during the COVID-19 crisis. They walk off in protest. They cannot be terminated for walking off the job. The knee-jerk reaction of most management in a non-unionized setting is they've abandoned their job. We're terminating them for good cause. Section 7 protects their right to walk off the job, so they cannot be terminated. However, they can be permanently replaced, and that's what Mel was talking about. Now, a lawyer thought that up, right? You have not been terminated. You have been permanently replaced. Genius. And what that means is the employer has the right to give that job away to somebody, and when the employee decides that they want to return to work right after their protest is over, well, then they are placed generally on a preferential hiring list. Whenever a vacancy becomes available for which they are qualified, then they have the right of first refusal. And so, that's really the big issue. Obviously, in collective bargaining, when we are negotiating a contract and things don't look like they are going well, then the employer is generally ready with permanent replacements. You know, a couple of employees walk off the job and protest. That may not always be the case. Next slide, please.
Okay.
All right, so what can employers do? Well, employees who engage in protected concerted activity, as I mentioned, the employer may not discharge, discipline, or threaten those employees, or coercively question them about the protected concerted activity. However, we can temporarily or permanently replace those workers, not as a punishment for them walking off the job, but rather based on economic necessity. You know, we've seen that, for example, in the healthcare arena, where we have a group of, say, CNAs, certified nursing assistants, who decide to walk off the job. You know, we need to make sure that patients are cared for. And so we will permanently replace those folks if we see that it is imminent. An employer has a bona fide permanent replacement if an employer has a bona fide permanent replacement that has replaced that worker, then, as I mentioned, the employee is entitled to be placed on a preferential hiring list. All right.
Jason, since we don't have much time left, the bottom line from what Jonathan's been talking about is that an employer needs to try to have the working conditions as safe as they can be, and communicate to employees that the company has done everything humanly possible to make the facility safe. Is engaged in every preventive tactic that exists, and so that employees don't feel that the company is putting them in an unsafe position.
Right.
As Jonathan was saying, that if employees strike over a safety concern, they can be permanently replaced. But if they strike over an abnormally dangerous, that is one that puts their life in danger, not just a concern, that puts their life in imminent danger, then they cannot be permanently replaced.
Okay. That's good clarification there.
All right, next slide.
Okay.
All right. So, how should employers prepare? As Mel mentioned, the key is to do whatever you possibly can do to make the workplace as safe as possible. The other thing is make sure that your supervisors are aware of this. If 2 or more employees are walking off the job, rather than firing off and engaging in the knee-jerk reaction of immediately terminating those folks, the supervisors need to be aware if 2 or more employees are leaving in protest, then they need to make sure that they immediately contact human resources or senior leadership in the company, and you need to immediately talk to your labor attorneys about this. This is a very subtle area of the law, but it can also be a very expensive area of the law if you get it wrong. Next slide, please.
Gotcha.
All right. So, what are the preventive strategies? And this is our last slide. Number one, the key when it comes to all labor relations is communication, communication, communication. Mel has been dealing with organized labor for more than 40 years. Jeff's been dealing with organized labor for more than 30 years. I've been dealing with it for, more than 20 years. Between the 3 of us, we probably have close to 100 years of combined experience in dealing with labor unions and dealing with protected concerted activity under the National Labor Relations Act. And what we found is this. Generally, when it comes to, let's say, a union organizing campaign, right, something that manufacturers are particularly always sensitive to, given the fact that they are a target if they're manufacturing in the United States of America, what we've generally found is this. The issues that come up in a union campaign, whether it's pay, other things, those are generally a symptom of the underlying problem. And the underlying problem is generally a leadership failure. And leadership is all based on communication. You can't lead people that you don't have a relationship with. You can't lead people that you don't communicate with. Employees who feel like employers are genuinely putting their best interests first. Employees who feel like their employers are communicating and being honest and transparent with them. they don't feel like they have the need to go to third parties like labor unions, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, Mr. One Call, That's All, or any other outside organization, right? They also don't feel like they need to walk off the job because they know you are doing everything that you can. So provide information to your employees, communicate to your employees, let your employees know that you're doing everything you can, maintain a positive attitude. I mean, folks, y'all who are in leadership positions, you set the tone every single day. These are very, very difficult times and very stressful times. Yeah. And if you're the ones who are fired up about, guys, we care about you, we appreciate you, we know things are difficult at home. You know, your spouse may have lost their job. You may be trying to homeschool your kids. And the reason you didn't do that in the first place is because of great public schools and you didn't want to be a school teacher. You know, you've got all these concerns. And so the final bullet point really is this: guys, practice empathy. I mean, talk to your folks, tell them how much you appreciate them, tell them what you're doing, tell them that you are always approachable and that they can come to you with any issues. As I'm seeing the screen, I see a lot of you working remotely. Make sure people feel comfortable calling you at home with any workplace concerns that they have. And if you do that, we minimize significantly the chance of having a problem under Section 7. And more importantly, just let your supervisors know. 2 employees are doing something together. It's time to call HR and senior leadership.
Right. And if HR and senior leadership might not have all the answers, I mean, you know, what's the next step? I mean, a lot of companies have a variety of different legal counsel available to them, but labor sometimes is maybe not one on the top of the list. I know you guys give me a little bit of insight on, you know, how best to reach out to you guys. We're going to include in the show notes, you know, direct connections, and, you know, of course, Costanzi's a member and sponsor, and all their information is on our site. But is there any other way that they might want to reach out to you?
Yeah, within our world, and Jason, I appreciate that, and certainly we don't want to interfere in any relationships y'all have, but you know, labor and employment, our firm, we've got 30 offices and 200 attorneys that do nothing but labor and employment law. And within that, there's a dichotomy. Employment lawyers deal with all of the statutes that, you know, give employees rights when it comes to pay, when it comes to their civil rights. We've got probably a small group of about 30 lawyers that do nothing but traditional labor under the National Labor Relations Act. So if 2 employees are engaging in concerted activity, the first question you need to ask your outside counsel is, how much experience do they have under the National Labor Relations Act? Yep. And if they don't, and you don't have a relationship, then give one of us a call, Mel or Jeff or myself. We're happy to get you pointed in the right direction and help you avoid problems.
Jason, we've got one client who's got just such a problem at this very moment. And so we apologize. We'll be available this afternoon if anybody wants to call and ask any questions or talk to us, or any other time. But we've got an active situation going that we apologize.
No, we completely understand. You guys need to go take care of that for sure. And again, we really do thank you and appreciate you guys for being on the line with us and being such a great resource. I will have folks reach back out to you. Go put out some fires, guys, and we'll catch up with you guys in a future call. So thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
Y'all stay safe. Thank you.
Take care. All right. Wow, it's great information, huh, man? That's cool. I'm really excited about being able to share that with you guys, and you know, and again, if you didn't catch all that, well, I will request, make sure that it's okay to be able to share the actual slides in the show notes. I would venture to say that that's going to be okay, but we're going to ask first. But so today's going to be a little different. Again, you know, what we're trying to do is we're mixing things up on the calls. Fortunately, we're able to get a lot of information in a pretty short period of time, but I wanted to open the call up and find out, you know, what you guys took away from that, what additional questions. Obviously, I can't answer any of the specific questions, but if you want to add them in the show notes, we'll make sure that we pass them along to the crew, and as they give us feedback, we'll always update the show notes on the page. So what's your takeaway so far on what we've covered? Ryan, I'm glad to have you on the line with us.
Yeah, thanks, man. My takeaway was I was unaware of the fact that 2 or more employees can cause a stir by themselves, even being non-union. So being on the lookout for that, especially when you've got, dealing with employees that are in a manual labor type environment, something definitely to keep an eye on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's information that I think will be valuable for a lot of folks. I thought that, you'd had to be a union house for any of that stuff to kick in. That's all new news to me. So interesting. All right. Ms. Michelle, you got anything you'd like to add or any questions?
I don't have any questions. I was actually surprised as well that, only two people, because, that can cause quite a stir. You get 2 people to agree on anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's, yeah. But I do want to thank Brittany for the notifications this week, because she's been texting me to remind me. I've just had some other things going on. So She's awesome. She's on your side.
She is a rock star. We got a killer team here. We even let them collaborate because they're collaborating from home. So I think we're good on a union call.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brittany and Heather are amazing. We're thrilled to have them helping us.
Sorry, I lost service, or my internet. I was having trouble. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Mine has been spotty too. I have Windstream, so.
Yeah, I think everybody on the planet is on Zoom this morning at 10 o'clock. That's how this is going to be working for a while. All right, Ms. Duncan, would you like to add a little bit? Any takeaways from the call today?
I thought it was very helpful to hear. Also, like if the employees were to walk off the job, and that 2 can be basically a team or collaboration. So I agree that the first response, your first thing is to say, hey, if you don't want this job, somebody else does, and get frustrated with it. But it's especially a small company. But so it was good to be reminded of some of those laws that some of the smaller non-unionized companies don't, I guess, consider as much as we should, especially in Georgia. We're a right to work state, so it's always nice to be reminded of larger laws too.
Right. Yeah, that's the main point, because I pitched it to Mel, has been my primary contact at Costanza Brooks for years. Mel's been a great friend, partner, and coach through a lot of stuff. And I know like almost nothing about the union space. And I've gone to several events that they host. So they host the Georgia Employers Association. It's an organization for employers across the state. And, a lot of times that's one of the main things that they talk about is labor law and how it impacts companies. And, there's some companies that are, of course, union in Georgia, and to hear sort of both sides of that conversation is really enlightening, to learn what the requirements are. But not being a union shop, didn't think any of that stuff applied. That makes a big difference for us to know now. And one of the things that Jamie Jackson brought up in the call yesterday, Jamie was on a call with us, and the topic was HR. And he's in staffing, and he said in the regulations for companies that took PPP that were over 500 employee count, and Koki, so you were right about the 500 being a limit, but there are exceptions to companies that allow them, if they have more than 500 employees, to also get PPP. And he corrected that and said that it was anything under the CARES Act. So any money that you receive from the government through the CARES Act, whether it be EIDL or PPP, qualify for the regulations that if you have more than 500 employees, which counts as a mid-market 500 to 10,000, I think, didn't he say? I forget what the number was, but that they're eligible to be able to have basically a union call without any interference from management, which is an interesting spot. So the labor unions included that in the regulations and then the funding for the CARES Act. So I think that there'll be a pretty strong push going forward for a lot more unionization. As we go through this, we'll see how that impacts our businesses long term. So it should be kind of interesting. All right, Ms. Cassie, have you got anything you'd like to add with us on the call?
No, I think you just kind of hit on my topic there, but it'll be interesting to see, especially here in the South, where unions are not as prevalent as they are up north, how that's going to change in the in the next coming months. So I think this was a great informative call, and I look forward to hearing more. But it just interested to see how the economy and things like this are going to impact our next year, next 6 months.
Okay, you could make a beautiful ventriloquist because you talked all that time and your mouth didn't move at all. Pretty neat trick.
Yeah. Good I'm good at that.
I love it. All right, Ms. Jonelle. Jonelle, you got anything you'd like to add with us on the call? Give me just a second there.
Hey. Trying to unmute myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was just very interesting because we use contract labor, so I don't necessarily have to deal with that, but it's just always interesting we get to that point to hire employees ourselves in this new environment. My Lord, is really amazing. But I mean, the information that GMA shares on these calls are very fruitful to not only just manufacturers, but employers in general. So I really do cherish this. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being on the call with us for sure today. All right, Mr. Weber. You got probably a lot of experience being from the northern states in the union space a little bit more.
I apologize. I couldn't get off an earlier call, so I've only been listening for a few minutes since the presenter talked, and I kind of got a sense of what everybody's talking about. I guess, is the big picture really managing risk against employee actions? Is that kind of the discussion here?
Yeah.
How do we manage risk against that effort?
Exactly. So non-union companies, if they have 2 employees that feel that there's a threat in the space. Now, this is Jason's recap. Absolutely don't.
Yeah.
Koki will have accurate information, and we can replay the information on the tape as well. But basically, even non-union shops like GMA, I mean, any company, if they have 2 employees that they feel that collaborate and figure out that there is a threat and they don't want to work, they can leave, and it's covered by the labor laws. Right.
Right. So, and I heard a webinar yesterday in the afternoon about management's obligation to manage risk against employees bringing lawsuits against the company if they come back and get sick on the job. So, I mean, if I was running a big company right now, I would definitely be on the phone with my HR and my legal team.
Right.
To manage that risk, because you just do not need people coming back. Who is it that's giving out $500,000 now to drivers or somebody's? If you have a problem and you lose a family member because they're on the job, this company, it's a national brand, is going to pay $500,000 to you.
Really interesting. I hadn't heard that yet.
I think it's a knock on the door operation. I'm not sure who. That this morning. So again, it's just managing risk, right?
Yeah, interesting. And and like we've said across on all these calls, I think that if we can keep the lawyers out of it, I mean, although I love Jonathan and Mel and Jeff, the more that we can keep those guys sitting at the office and not in the courtroom, it's going to be better for the country. And if we're just doing the right stuff, if you're not providing a safe work environment, you need to fix that, right? And if you're essential and you gotta keep the wheels turning, you got to make it as safe as humanly possible, right? And so I think if the more people dig into the fact that do the right thing on the front end, and don't let the legal system be your first call, right? Try to figure it out.
I'm sorry I missed the front. Sorry I missed the front end of your call, guys. I'll try. Like I said, I was jammed up.
No worries. We got lots of calls and lots of stuff going on for sure. All right, Ms. Koki, what was your takeaway from the call?
Well, I used to be managing a manufacturing company, a large one in California. And so we had about maybe only 120 workers in the factory. But, very often I had a front door and a back door to my office. And very often, the workforce on the floor would come to my back door and tell me about a problem. And I would say, okay, I'll get back to you. And I would go out of my front door of the office and find out from HR or legal what repercussions there are or what their options were.
Right.
And then at 6 a.m. the next morning, I would tell everybody, this is a scoop. So my question to the law firm is, how do the employees know what their repercussions are if you don't, if it's not posted anywhere?
That's a great question.
Because they could also, I found through my experience, it was a lot of like, well, I didn't know about that. If I'd known, I would have never done it.
Right.
And I started the open door policy of, my back door to the office. And, and it makes a big difference when they know ahead of time what the repercussions are, such as permanently replacing their job.
Right. Well, and also the flip side of that is if they didn't know that two people could get together and then collaborate and walk off, and there's no repercussions if there's a safety thing, that might, that's the other side of the coin too. I mean,
exactly.
Companies at a lot different risk there. So.
So
if we could craft that, and we'll throw that question out to the guys and see what the response is. What as an employer, what are the responsibilities for communicating this to labor?
We also had like as simple as a suggestion box in the office, which was some of them couldn't write English, and that's where they would come into my office to have me write it, but the note would go in the box, and I would never, tell anybody who it was, because then I would lose the trust of the workers.
Right.
But, just an anonymous note in the box saying, hey, we don't like this, or, why do I have to pay for safety goggles when you mandate it? That was always a big one. So just a suggestion box, goes a long way.
That's cool. That's good input, Cookie. I appreciate that for sure. All right, Miss Brittany.
My favorite part, I was seconding Cassie there, is just very informational, informative. So they were very well spoken, seemed like they had a lot of knowledge, which was very great to hear that between all of them, 100 years experience with all this stuff. So they definitely know what they're talking about. So it was great to hear their piece on the everything.
That's cool. All right, thanks. All right, Miss Heather in Hawaii.
I wish. I don't know. I kind of have a different take on it, kind of piggybacking off of Koki here, but we've all been working, 30, 40 years of our life and never heard of that law. So I'd be guessing to say it's probably one where it's not known, or they don't want workers to know, because given in the right environment, that would cause a problem.
Oh yeah.
Two people would, if they knew, they would be like, hey, let's go home today. Let's say, whatever. And I just would be guessing it's one of those laws that employers do not make known or post, because they don't want to deal with that potential problem every couple months.
Yeah, the risk could be pretty dramatic for a company.
Right.
Because if, hunting season shows up and everybody feels really unsafe at the beginning of hunting season, or, or the stripers are running, or, whatever that might be, it can be
right.
That could be very expensive for a business to be able to, what the you can't terminate them, but they can be permanently replaced. That's priceless, man. That's some lawyer talk if I ever heard it.
Yeah, for sure, right there.
Yeah.
That was my thoughts, though.
All right. Well, thank you all for sharing your insights and feedback on this, because we're doing this. We want to make sure we continue to give you the tools to be more successful and productive. Share this with anybody, especially in the HR side of the house that you're working with, any of your customers or your prospects. I mean, this might be some valuable information. It would be bad if you knew the information and your customers didn't. So use this as a tool. Use this as just a value add. Send them the link to the archive call. It'll be up this afternoon. Koki's going to recap the notes. We'll put those in a blog post, and you can send them right to this one call. They can watch the video of what we just went over, take a look at the PowerPoint, I expect. And help you folks out. That's why we're doing these things. But I did want to give you a quick update on we are changing the schedule a little bit for next week for our calls. Up till now, we've done, a couple calls a day on Monday. We're moving our task force call that we've been doing at 2:00 on Monday to Tuesday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we're going to have 10:00 calls every day at 10. We're changing the subjects a little bit. And then on Friday, we're doing our 4:00 Fun Fridays, right? So we're not going to do an afternoon call on Monday. We're going to shift that to Tuesday. So Monday will be a town hall. We're probably going to bring in bullet points and speakers on the Monday call, like the legal or the finance or that kind of thing. As things change, as we get updates, depending on what people are asking most about, we'll bring on a thought leader, industry expert to talk on the town halls and give everybody an update. Tuesday is going to be a task force at 10:00. Wednesday, we're looking at doing some really neat stuff, possibly doing some facility tours, showing how companies are really like show and tell. What are they doing with hand sanitizer, and what are they doing for, protecting their employees, and maybe what are the products that they're manufacturing to help protect the people at Publix with the glass shields, or making face masks or whatever. So we're looking at doing some contributed tours, video tours, and then bring the plant tour manager or whoever, the plant manager, to help us on the call to kind of explain what's going on. And then and you guys are the first to hear this. We're going to be doing the Reopen Georgia call on Thursday. So on Thursday, we're going to be bringing it back together. Who's who in the zoo? What are we talking about? How we can connect? What resources do you need? Because I know for a fact that there are several companies that are not going to open their doors back up, which will leave some open holes in the supply chain. When somebody drops out of the supply chain, there's a lot of scuffle to get things back up and running. So, so we're going to be talking about strategies, the things that we can do as businesses to make sure that we've got everything covered. And if there's a missing link, we want to be able to be here to help you find a replacement for that missing link, right? So those are some of the things that we're going to do. Cookie, yeah.
Yeah, I was on a Zoom call with a technology association in Florida yesterday, and I specifically asked the question, what are the guidelines for reopening? Do you guys have any in Florida or within your industry? And they were like a deer in the headlights. They had no clue what I was talking about.
Right.
So you are by far ahead of the game with addressing this. By the same token, the news with all the governors fighting against the federal government about reopening their states, who has the right to do so, is another, great topic. The Florida call had a senator on its call to give the, whole overview as far as the state is concerned. Right. And it was really interesting to see the different industries, reporting on that.
Okay, cool. We may be able to bring some folks on in that space. Typically we try to avoid as much politics as we can, but having some folks in, I think probably wouldn't hurt to mix it up a little bit to get some insights and, some really feet on the street, what's going on in the space. So I'll be reaching out. So again, the key thing is that we're going to be doing a recovery call. What is it that you got to do to get stuff back up and running? How do you make sure you backfill the thing? The Fun Friday is still on for 4:00. One of the other pieces that we're kicking around, and I want to get you guys feedback, is doing an open call networking. So limit the call to 30 people. Half of them will be manufacturers and half of them will be service folks. You got 2 minutes. It'd be an open Zoom call. And I would say, Koki, go, tell us what's going on, right? What are you doing in the space? And then everybody's got 2 minutes. So basically it would be just virtual networking, kind of speed dating. If you're looking for a new plastic injection molder, or if you're looking for, it's, depending on what your needs are. I don't know for sure if we're going to be able to pull that off. I'm going to pitch it out as probably going to be GMA members only, to be able to, that way we can kind of qualify. We don't want to get too heavy on the service side. We want to make sure that we're able to invite the manufacturers, and we get enough manufacturers to participate, because manufacturers are going to be looking for new suppliers, and so I think it'd be fun. I don't want it to take place of our Fun Fridays, because that needs to be still connected to be very relaxed and casual. but I think we're going to add, and we'll see how that goes. And if it fills up pretty quick, we may open up another one. It'll be just a unique way to network, because the feedback that I've gotten from a lot of people that have attended these calls is the connections in the business that they're making. There's been a lot of business transacted as a result of the calls that we've been doing, and some of them that weren't really, that wasn't the expectation for some of the calls that the business is connected on. So we're here. We want to help you guys make more money. We want to help you make more new connections and provide education, connect, educate, and promote. That's what we're all about, And so, so this has been fun, been interesting. And I want to open it up to you guys. What are your thoughts? Any other ideas or suggestions of, things that we could do to make it better for you? I know Cassie's got some great ideas, because she's just always on top of it. And I want to see that ventriloquism work again.
My kids are in here, so I'm trying not to go on video. And sorry, I turned around for 2 minutes when I heard my name pop up. I think you said, what are some ideas?
What are some things that we could be doing to help better serve the manufacturing space outside of the things that we're doing now?
I don't know that, I think you guys are doing a great job. I mean, the networking has been, all these events or all these webinars and just giving an open forum for people to communicate and connect is awesome. I think our biggest thing on my side is letting our clients know that we're still here to support them, even though they've got all the odds against them. Doors are closed, budgets are shut down. So letting people know that this is a forum to get information when you're out of resources or just can't in general. So I think you guys are doing a great job. I don't know that you could really be doing anything else at this point.
Cool. Well, if you think of something, or if you hear anything in the marketplace, please let us know, because we're all ears. I was on a call yesterday and with a company that helps us with our marketing a little bit. And so they provide a software to associations and help associations promote their events and membership and that sort of thing. Pretty pricey little program that we've been working on that kind of got shut down. And they were like, well, what do you do when you don't have events? If you're an events business, what does it look like? Because there's been a lot of change. And based on the all the data that they've pulled through in the U.S., a lot of businesses rely heavily on the trade show industry. Raise your hand if you're a trade show junkie. You like going to trade shows, give business, get business. You like doing business. That's just what this is about, right? So, based on all the numbers that they gathered through the trade show executives and the results that have come through that, they said that through Q1 and Q2 in the United States, there's $145 billion of lost or delayed transactions due to the coronavirus. $145 billion just, right, that usually gets transacted as a direct result of trade shows. 145 billion bucks, Q1, Q2, and I pray it doesn't go into Q3, but it may. So people are trying to figure out, well, how do I do that, right? I know, Cassie, you're a big trade show fan and like engage in that way. I mean, I love them. Heck, we got one, right? Or we're supposed to have one September 15th. But so people are going to be really struggling trying to figure out how will they replace that? What will that look like on the other side? So, and as an association, how do we provide the ways to do that? That's part of the reason we're looking at doing this networking thing, right? Is if we can't connect you face to face and you can shake hands, maybe we can do a digital handshake, right? And get connected. And so those are some of the things that we're working through. Koki, yeah.
I was on another call with about more than 7,000 event planners worldwide. And I copied these 2 slides because I thought of you about this. The first one is, when is the earliest live event you are planning or looking to attend right now? There were 6,242 answers. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this?
Yeah, I can't see that too well.
But the big bar is 27% of them will attend in September, the first event.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'll forward you this slideshow.
Yes, please
this
do.
Slide, it's really good. The next one, I only copied two. Next one how will live events change after the crisis is over? 6,900 answers. 62% say the events will be hybrid, which means when you organize an event, you give your attendees an option to either attend in person or virtually.
Interesting.
Which is really interesting. I'll send you these slides.
Yeah, please do. I mean, because and again, being very, very transparent with you guys. I mean, we're looking at the calendar. I mean, we got a deadline date coming up very, very quick. I mean, it's either go or no go. Early May, we got to decide. You know, I mean, and I mean, you know, these things are not cheap. I mean, you're looking at, you know, writing a big old fat check. And none of it's guaranteed. I mean, none of it's guaranteed on the planet anyway, right? I mean, we got that, but you can kind of predict, you know, so far this is what the numbers have been, and we expect to have growth and all that. But on the flip side of that, you know, will people actually show up? You know, will the exhibitors show up? Will the attendees show up? The attendees is the biggest thing. I mean, you know, the exhibitors, we got a really great, strong base of the exhibitors with apparently really good immune systems, because they're like, let's do it anyway, you know, because they need to sell, right? Which is cool. Yeah. We get it. But we need to make sure that the attendees are able to, you know, that they're comfortable to go. So, you know, so please keep us in your thoughts around that, or for us to make the right decision, because we're reaching out in the community to find out, you know, how many people are going to be able to go or want to go. Right. So, all right. With that, Brian, what's your favorite part about the call? What's the conversation? What are you seeing out there, man?
Well, you know, I'm just trying to get as much intelligence on events and how we can move events into the virtual realm. I've been trying to talk to as many people as I can who have ideas and what they're going to do. So I wish I had answers. Everybody looks like the group of people I'm looking at right now. No one's really sure.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be interesting.
I mean, big events have been canceled.
Yeah.
Huge. I mean, you know, we talk about the GMA event. We're talking about events that cripple airlines if they get canceled.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what to say about anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft announced that all their events will be virtual till July 2021.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And
wow.
There's another.
Yeah, and they run some big events.
Oh man. Thanks, Brian. Mr. Carver, what are you thinking? Yeah. What you seeing?
You know, this is all real good info. I really like the information or the idea about doing a quick networking call. You know, but with us being on the supplier side, it's helpful for us. But I think you hit the nail on the head yesterday on LinkedIn, or actually Waldo did, when he was talking about, you see these people that are coming out in droves trying to sell versus, you know, building relationships, and they should have had their relationships built up to this point before they start to sell. But I think the environment's changing to where we got to learn to build relationships like this, you know, through this type of communication. So this is good for us to start the relationships now if you don't have them already, and then, you know, work on the sales in the back end. But you know, I think the idea of a virtual networking would be really good. I've done it in a couple other groups so far, and it's been a success. So.
Oh, really? Well, give me some intel on that. What does it look like? Are you doing it? Have y'all done it on Zoom? I mean, what's the sort of the
so it's all been on Zoom, and it's kind of an open forum. We typically have an agenda that we go through with the one that I do weekly. It was right before this call, but one that we do weekly, and you know, it's kind of like a 2-minute thing like that. You know, we have a couple topics that we talk about as a group. Okay. And then if we have, you know, any newcomers, we'll go through the whole introduction. You give your 2-minute spiel, et cetera. And then any connections that you don't know, like if there's someone on there that you're not connected with on LinkedIn, you know, we encourage people to reach out to them on LinkedIn, say, hey, love seeing you on the call. You know, if you ever need our help in any way, please let us know, et cetera. And, you know, that's how we're meeting new folks
Cool.
As of right now, while we're stuck behind these four walls.
Yeah. And how many people typically get on those calls? I mean, to be able to give everybody 2 minutes, I mean, you're keeping it down to around 30 or so?
Yep. So that's pretty much the exact number. Anywhere from 25 to 30.
Okay. Very cool. Sweet. Well, we're probably going to be kicking one of those off next week and just see how she shakes. You know, I mean, I'm any way that we can serve our folks, you know.
Sounds good.
Well, you'll be on the short list on early invites.
Sweet.
Nice. All right, Miss Michelle.
I just like being involved and knowing what's going on because I have been at home and pretty much not working because my job is networking. That's actually what it is. So being involved in here, doing a little bit on, you know, LinkedIn and other social media because I'm still trying to do stuff with part of the Jackson County Chamber of Commerce. So just being able to take the information, since I'm still new at all this, I really don't know what I don't know. So finding out, you know, what other people are using and just that information is good. So, and like I said, I mean, some of the capabilities you don't even know are out there until someone else uses it. And then, you know, you can kind of take those ideas and grow them and expound upon them and things like that. But, you guys do a great job. So at listening to everyone and those people that do know, you know, going ahead and running with their ideas. So good.
Nice. Well, we're gonna keep trying to, you know, crack open the safe and figure out what this new networking format's gonna look like. So thank you all for being.
Yeah, but I will again say I miss people. Yes. And if I've seen you on here and not met you in person, I will probably hug you the next time I see you.
Me too. That's how I work, man.
Extrovert. I'm usually a handshaker, but come on.
Yeah. We'll be catching up, I promise. All right, Ms. Koki, what else you got as we wrap this thing up?
I second what Michelle is saying. I love that quote from yesterday. I don't know who said it. Was take care of the extroverts because they're in pain right now.
Yeah, we are struggling. Yes, we are.
I love that.
All right, beautiful.
I'm good.
Brittany, Heather, you got anything else you guys would like to add as we wrap it up? All right, cool, guys. All right, we'll wrap this call up. Make sure that you like and comment on the LinkedIn post that we'll post out later this afternoon. Oh, Jonelle, okay.
I got something to say. I got something to say, sir. Well,
what you got?
I miss people. Okay, I got that out the way.
Yeah.
And I mean, just trying to figure out a new means of connecting with folks. I think the virtual networking, I think the virtual plant tours would be awesome. Mm-hmm. And if an employer or if a manufacturer or somebody is really in need of something, they could just open up the webcam and show folks stuff around and say, hey, I'm in need of this. Can you help me out here? Mm-hmm. You know, for the next few months or however long this waiting on this vaccine to come out or whatever, that will probably be a great way to keep the GMA brand and mission going is manufacturers that want to open up their facilities via plant tour. Virtual plant tour, that's a good idea. Second of all, me personally, I'm just looking for them to open up the airports because, I mean, I know we could do a domestic flight, but, you know, we're starting some activities international and, you know, in Africa, and with this disease closing down the airports, it's kind of difficult for a system.
Yeah.
So
they'll be open soon, we hope.
So I mean, I really can't wait till we figure out what's the next move forwards, and then from there, let's go kick some tail. Woo!
There you go. That's what it's about. Well, let's get out there and get after it. Go out as far as you can without being in trouble. So be safe, guys, out there. Again, thanks for all y'all's input and participation today. It's been another great day at GMA, and we'll catch you on the call tomorrow at 10. See you guys. Thanks.